everyone. I'm Susanna Calvert, founder and convener for Mission and Vision for the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. Welcome to our series called Engaging Spirituality. I'd like to introduce the inspiration for this series in just a second, Tim Ford. But just a quick word about the foundation. Our mission is to help us all learn to create healthy and rewarding relationships with ourselves, each other, Earth, and the loving force that unites us. So we're focusing on that latter part of it, but it's also relationship with ourselves as we think about our own relationship with spirituality, and talking about modern topics related to that theme. So my co-host, I guess if you can call it that, but he had the inspiration for this series, is Tim Ford, and he's a faculty member at VCU School of Medicine, teaching contemplative care, and also a convener for spiritual engagement with the foundation.
So the point of what we were trying to do with this particular series on engaging our spirituality is we started with this developing our community around the goals of FFCH of fostering our relationship with ourselves and with nature. And what we found in doing that is that there's a spiritual component to all of that. But more importantly, we started to recognize that our community itself had a spirituality to it that was very, very diverse. We had a lot of people coming from a lot of different traditions and backgrounds. And part of the idea of this series wasn't just to explore the diversity of our community, but by doing that, by exploring the diversity we have here, looking at ways that different people come at their spirituality in application and how they bring that into their relationships with each other, with themselves, and with nature, and hopefully inspire the rest of us to find ways to do that in different ways, or to add fuel to the fires of what we were already doing, just by exploring these together and just embracing the diversity that we've got. So I'm really, really thrilled that we're going to start off this series with Faith Grieger, who's agreed to join us. And Faith, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Susanna. And yeah, I'm the convener of healing for FFCH. And I'm so appreciative of this group for acknowledging all the wonderful qualities that each of us have and brings to the foundation. And so I bring to it a rather extensive healing background, starting with massage school, and then going to Reiki, and then going to feng shui and interior design, and running volunteer programs and for nonprofits, and lots of tools I've added to my toolbox. And so I wanted to just say that in my heart, we are all healers. We're all healers for each other through our hearts, through our hands, through gazing into each other's eyes and listening to each other. So just because I'm the convener of healing, it's because it's what I'm here to learn is about healing. And the more I study healing and work with people on healing, with healing, the more I realize that there are infinite ways to resolve all issues and move forward and heal and bring your life force energy back.
You said it in your intro as trusting that that's the healer in each of us, that we have an eternal essence. There's an energetic nature to it. Is there a beginning to that you remember, at least your awareness of it in you? Is there a time that you would say you kind of came to an understanding of that?
That's such a good question. I know that it grows with every breath I take.
Uh-huh.
And I know that it came in, the first realization of it came with my first breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it also occurred in the womb
Mm-hmm.
and before that.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my soul state. So I almost see it as this connected breath that's never not been there. Sure, like everyone else, I have heightened moments of it.
Yeah.
And a couple of examples of that might be when I first started my regression work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning to do a type of session that's, I do past life regression. And the next kind of session that I learned to do is called a life between life session, where the goal of the session is to spend most of the time there, and this is a 4 or 5 hour session, in the soul world or the spirit world or heaven with your soul family, with your guides, with your council of elders, and learning all about your eternal nature. So the first time when I was in training to do that, we would work on each other. And when I had my first experience of feeling my soul state um, in that, and I was in the theta state, which I see as the soul mind state. It was like I described a little earlier in the meditation. It was that quickening of
Mm.
every cell in my body. And I realized something amazing was getting ready to happen. And then my soul and I just went boom. And we just had a merge that was like a spiritual orgasm, just beyond anything I'd ever experienced.
Had you tried other traditions before regression stuff along those lines?
Yeah, I'd done shamanic work
Okay.
and all kinds of body work and energy work, rebirthing and tons of stuff. This just happened to be I realized that spirit connected me with this particular work because it was going to be my easiest pathway.
That's what I was kind of getting at is how did you know that?
Yeah. Um, I knew it because I paid attention to the breadcrumbs that spirit left for me along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, through books. I read Michael Newton's books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. And the first one I read, I knew by the first chapter that this was the work I was here to do. And so I called the institute that trains you and got right in with that. And
You knew almost immediately as soon as you touched that wire.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So,
Yeah.
so Faith, um, you have such a rich and deep spirituality, and and I don't know if you agree, but I feel like everybody has a very different interfaith, base, and sort of practice, which is partly why we created this series. And I was wondering if you could just explain how these past lives and future lives, all that construct and having all that available to you, how does that affect your spirituality or your sense as a spiritual being?
Um, well, once you have your own experience with your soul and you can hear and feel the vibratory shift in your voice, because all sessions are recorded, so you can listen to it later, but you feel it in yourself when you are channeling your own soul. It's your voice becomes stronger. There's no doubt.
Mhm.
It's richer. Sometimes it has a slightly different lilt, um, but it's the voice of your truth. And there's, it's like there's no question. Yeah, and so I'm the kind of person where I have to have my own experience before I'm going to run out and do things with clients or other people, I have to own it. I have to claim it fully and have
Mhm.
it inform as much of me as I can. So I take a really deep dive and practice and practice and practice with all the different modalities I can. And so I found that through doing what is known as a past life regression and what is called future regressions and what is called this and that and the other, I also learned to do sessions that are about quantum consciousness and opening up
Mhm.
to our now experience, where we get to visit ourselves and other experiences that are happening simultaneous to the now, whether it's an alternate existence, a parallel, a interdimensional. We might be in human form or we may not be.
Nice.
Um, and then I've had so many of my own sessions where I'm, in a completely different form. I may not be in human form and I might not be on Earth. And so ultimately, I developed a session called a galactic reunion session based on my personal meeting with my friends and family in the Pleiades beyond Earth that helped me remember that I'm a citizen of the universe. I am much more, as we all are, in my belief, than a citizen of Earth, although being a citizen of Earth is a very high honor, especially at this time in Earth's history, because of the impact we're all making on the energetic shift that I believe we're experiencing and that we are here to take part in and to help with.
Faith, when you bring that back out to others and connect with people who aren't coming at it from that same modality, who don't maybe not don't understand. They hear your words, but don't hear them the way you're saying them in terms of being a galactic citizen or past life. When people don't have that background at all to understand what you mean by that, how do you translate that? Or do you? How do you invite them? Because you do it so well in your meditations. You invite people into places um, very broadly, if you will.
Right.
How do you do that? And at what point do you invite them into your way of seeing it, the modality that it's really working for you? And at what point do you just broaden it so they can access it? You know what I'm saying?
I do. And so, of course, like any new experience, one that you're really gung ho about, you want to convince everybody that it's real, that it's fantastic, that it's,
One
big.
true way.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, the spiritual ego is just on fire, you got the answer. So, of course, everything we learn about, we get all excited about, and we want to tell everybody. So, of course, I had to jump through those humbling hoops. And for me, it's usually the most humbling is with my family. And they were just like, oh my God, oh my God. I remember at some point when I was really starting my spiritual quest, I called a family conference. And I was in my early 30s and it was just brimming over in me and I couldn't not talk about it. And I was getting ready to move to Oregon, but nobody knew about it. I just had to, get the heck out of the East Coast and start something fresh and where nobody knew me pretty much. And so I called a family meeting and my parents had a swimming pool and I sat down and I went, hey guys, something is happening inside of me. I can't describe it, but I'm not the same person that you knew. And I'm not the same Faith I was. And my mother went, excuse me, could somebody go get a drink for me? And
Here we go again.
okay. She
Yeah.
said this, pretty much,
Yeah.
bourbon. And so, yeah. And so my family has definitely given me, a hard time and teased me a lot. And now have pretty much resigned to Faith is the kid that's, you know, she doesn't have any limitations in that world, right?
Right.
And they each, like the rest of us, they don't have limitations in other realms, but this
Yep.
is my realm. And so I never have been somebody, hopefully, that try to force my opinion too strongly, but especially about spirituality. And the more you do that, I learn quickly, the more you turn people off. And
Mhm.
so, sure, I've had people say, "What are you talking about? Why would anybody even want to know anything beyond this life?" And in some ways, they've got a good point because there's enough going on in the current life. And I do a lot of work with people in the current life because you could argue that the current life is the culmination
Yeah.
of everything you've ever experienced over time. So, is it not as important, if not the most important thing? The cool thing is, I've gotten to the point, it doesn't matter how many lifetimes somebody's had, everybody's an eternal soul. If they want to work in something that happened a week ago, or in their childhood, or an ancient past life, or another planet, it doesn't matter because it's not up to me or the client or who I'm working with where we go. It's our soul.
Mhm.
It's their soul that guides us. So it's so out of my hands. And I finally, when I realized that, my world got a lot easier and my work became a lot more fun because I could just get out of the way and go wherever the soul wanted them to go.
It sounds like your path has been, if not clear, at least persistent all the way through. And what I'm hearing in the growth that you're describing now is that growth of humility, of being able to sort of get out of your own way and do it even more powerfully than you were before. Is that am I hearing you right?
Yeah, I've had to drop a lot of egoic
Yeah,
beliefs,
that's a
and
lot of work.
it's been a whole lot of work because I used to have, or I mean, in the not so recent future, I mean, past, whenever. See, I get lost in where are we, but I've had to realize, not only am I not responsible for anything but what is mine to do,
Hmm.
and that the more tightly I hold on to an expectation or attachment to the outcome of working with someone, or even my own dreams and beliefs, the more I get out of the way and let God take over, and I can just be that channel or that guide for God. The more I realize it's not me, the more fun I have and the lighter I feel.
Has that been a deliberate practice of yours, or would you say that's just more the maturity of your work?
Both.
Okay.
And the maturity just of, you know, being 66 years old,
Uh-huh.
and, finding my own resistance points. And
What what advice would you give to somebody who is working on that in particular? Is there a practice that you do on that in particular, or what advice would you give?
yeah, there are a lot of practices, Tim, and they change from week to week to week, depending on what I'm experiencing within myself. I love to collect new practices because
Hmm.
I like to bring on new things that I can use with my clients and myself, but I always try them with me first to see
Okay.
if they work. Um,
You must have a rich toolbox by now.
I do. I mean, it's great. I mean, I feel like everything is in this sphere
Uh-huh.
all around me. Everything I need, I can just reach for, and I
Uh-huh.
don't have to do a lot of pre-planning or no, I don't have to do a lot of outlines. I can just show up.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot more fun.
Do you have, this is a sort of a professional curiosity question, but do you have practices or exercises that you've done that you've rejected, that you've decided not to keep, that don't work?
Well, yeah, I've left a lot of things in the dust.
And is that because you choose not to use them again, or you say that one really didn't work?
Oh, I think every practice, because I believe my soul has led me to each,
Uh-huh.
had great value, just like every relationship I've had,
Mm-hmm.
whether I
Yeah.
consider it, one that I can stay with the rest of my life or it's a temporary situation. I tell you that if I had to say my lifelong practice would be the Tibetan rites.
Uh-huh.
I love those. They work for me. And in the past 6 months, I haven't done them. And boy, have I noticed a difference.
You're preaching my language now, Faith, but explain that for others who are listening. What do you mean by Tibetan rites?
Well, I started them so long
Summarize them.
ago, I don't even remember the origin. You can just Google the book, The Tibetan Rites, and it's 5 ancient rites that you do. They're sort of yoga,
Mhm.
chakra clearing, Sufi kind of. Yeah, it's a physical movement that keeps your chakras open, and the aging process, it can really help slow down the aging process and keep the body supple and refreshed.
Nice.
So Faith, you have such a vast toolkit, and I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the relational aspect of your work and your tools. Foundation is all about relationships and relationship education, and so how does your relationship with the divine, with spirit, impact your relationship with people and with Earth?
Well, Susanna, I feel like the more I surrender to all that is and God and the love that exists throughout the multiverse, the more my field is filled with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's how, and it would include, I suppose, you know, the voice, the eyes, the touch, the vibration, the frequency. And so I think that the more I spend time in that pure divine energy, just like everybody else, the more it fills us. And then we share that with others. And that brings almost sometimes an instant sense of heart to heart connection, because when I'm with people who have immersed themselves in this energy, I feel safe with them right away.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that safety and trust, and like it just feels so good to be with them. And so, that's important to me, that people trust me and that they know that I care and that I'm going to show up in the moment with them and give my heart, meet them where they are.
Faith, you said you were brought to these different practices basically by following the breadcrumbs and following where the spirit leads you. Would you say the same thing about relationships?
Oh, absolutely.
Thought you might. Yeah.
Absolutely. And from my perspective, we're like architects. Our souls are like architects in the soul world or heaven, and that we are blueprinting our life. Just like we would design a building or a house or a city, we're choosing all the elements, and we're choosing the gender, we're choosing the
Mm-hmm.
planet, we're choosing, say, if we choose Earth, we're choosing what part of Earth, and we're choosing our families and our friends. And most of the key moments in our life, I believe, are, um, you know, written up in the blueprint, a
Mm.
part of our soul's design that we intended for our highest growth.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so, talk about that, the breadcrumbs, and how it led you to Earth and your relationship with Earth and your role with Earth. Can you speak about Earth specifically, Faith? I know you have a very special and unique relationship with Earth.
I do, and I just for me, my struggle though has been staying in a form, in a body. I do feel like I have a special relationship with Earth, but I do with all of creation, and I do with all the heavenly bodies. So Earth, yes, is a jewel in the crown of the heavenly bodies. I do believe that. It's just that
Mm.
it hasn't been easy for me to be in form. And a great part of me would like to be in a place that was more loving, and that I know that exists in other worlds. However, my soul, I do recognize that I'm here, just like the rest of us, to do a specific kind of work. And I feel very honored that Earth, or Gaia, that consciousness, has invited me to be with her, because she has to be among the bravest of the brave to have withstood the trials and tribulations. But I also believe that she, as a sentient conscious being, also designed this in her blueprint. And then she asked those of us who she knew would support her,
Mhm.
her rise back to her true self. She invited many of us to come back to
Mhm.
show others, hey, this is our mother. Um, we we need to remember we're all earth healers, and we're here to cherish her and support her, which will in turn heal us. Like remember that symbiotic relationship, everybody.
Uh, and I love how you phrase that, Faith. So, do you see, I think I know the answer to this, but in what ways do you see Earth as a spiritual being that is similar or different from us as spiritual beings?
Well, for
Great
all
question.
we know, we might be having simultaneous lives where we are the spirit that's holding the energy of a planet within the multiverse. For all we know, we could very possibly be doing that, or perhaps we're in training for that, or perhaps we've done it before,
Mhm.
and we want to try. We want to be in this really challenging experience with Earth as we're
Mhm.
dropping density, rising into a new state. And we're here as, scientists, to galactic scientists, cosmic scientists, to do the research and track it, so we learn, maybe at least in this part of the galaxy, the best way to do it. And then we can, do trainings for other galaxies, using the suggestions that we've used on Earth.
Faith, please unpack dropping density. I love that phrase.
Well, dropping old, stuck, heavy energy
Uh-huh.
based on fear,
Ah, uh-huh.
rising into the lighter vibration of love.
Interesting. I'm seeing the juxtaposition. You talked about being aware of these pure worlds where love is much more manifest and easy. And then I love your faith in coming to this world and being, I think you said, being in form in this world on this earth as a trust that there's something to this that's worth the energy of doing that. And I'm hearing the juxtaposition of that with dropping the density that would overwhelm you. So being in this world with these struggles, trying to manifest love in a world that doesn't make that easy sometimes,
Yeah.
and then dropping the density of the things that get in the way of that. I hear that as a, you didn't say it as a tension. I think I'm hearing it as a tension.
It's
How do you work with that?
every minute of every day.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, this goes back to, I believe that the most important thing that our souls are seeking is learning and growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
it.
agree with you.
I mean, that's the most important part. I don't think our soul, and I'm saying this based on, you know, many sessions with myself and my soul talking to me, and many other people saying the same
Yeah.
thing. Our soul is not interested all the time in having a cushy life where everything is de- delivered on a silver platter.
Right.
Because if everything was delivered on a silver platter, um, then it wouldn't be, we wouldn't feel like we've really accomplished something.
That's right.
That's why I took us through in the meditation that tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
It had some challenges because that was real. That's real life, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many souls do incarnate on lower density planets, because the soul growth is just beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
When we can, if we're these high frequency beings from very high, lofty places, and we agree to take a fall in density. Wow, the the struggle to climb back up and out
Mm-hmm.
into a clear space.
Mm-hmm.
So you recognize you are an eternal soul, and you, wow, there's God, and wow, then you appreciate that kind of thing. That's real estate that nobody can take away.
Yeah.
That's real strength, and develops real wisdom and truth where you can truly be, of deep service to wherever you are.
And is that the point, to just keep reincarnating and elevating our energy over and over again? And if so, to what end?
Ah, great question.
Well, yeah, gee, that works for me, Susanna. So, but I sure don't have the answers. I love to ask questions like, are we the only planet, or are we the only solar system or universe where reincarnation exists? I mean, what do they do in the other universes? Have they got their own like matrix, their own, is there karma other places, or is there
Nice.
a whole nother game being
Ah,
played out? And I can't wait to find out. But from my tiny, I mean, just I don't understand anything. But my sense at this stage is, yeah, we wanna go back to oneness. We want to go back to source, to God, and because that's what home is to me. And if I was God, if I was the creator, I would make sure my children got to play in as many playgrounds as they possibly could. That they got to travel everywhere and do everything. I wouldn't keep my little precious child, in the nursery, and one little nursery their whole life, and
mhm.
their whole soul existence. I wouldn't say, oh no, you stay in one, when I mean, sky's the limit. And I've had experiences where sky's is the limit, which,
Mhm.
like,
Big sky mind. Uh-huh.
yeah, big sky mind.
Mm-hmm.
You realize you cannot play victim anymore, for one thing.
Well, you still can. It just doesn't. It feels more false, right?
Right, but once your soul lets you know what you're here to do, and that you had a choice, how can you say? Because from my perspective, there aren't perpetrators and victims.
Right.
We're just all doing this. We take turns with the roles, and
Mhm.
sometimes we're the perpetrator, and sometimes we're the ones that fall to our knees, and back and forth we change roles.
Faith, when all is said and done, and they say you completed the task that you were here for in this life, what task was that?
Love.
Nice.
To learn more about love, because love is love isn't always great and easy. love is that timeless journey that can take infinite forms. And to me, it's the only sustainable energy to live within.
Wow. Very well said.
I think that was the perfect thing to say at the end of our hour. Can't believe how quickly it's gone. Tim, I wonder if we have time for one quick question in the last couple minutes, because I know Leslie had a question.
Great. Please, Leslie.
I did. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this session. I've loved every minute. And Faith, the journey that you took us on in that meditation was a beautiful soul journey for me. And this is somewhat of a practical question. And Tim asked you about all the things in your toolbox. And when you guide me on the soul journey, I feel like you guide me to places that it's still hard for me to get to on my own. And I'm just wondering if there's any practical advice to maybe how to develop in the toolbox some specifics to going on that journey on your own with your soul. How do you recommend to the people that you help and heal that they practice on their own?
Oh, Les, thanks. That's such a good question. And Les and I have done some great sessions together, and so she knows what she's talking about.
Right.
She's had some amazing experiences, and so I would say talk to your soul.
Yeah.
But the reason I got into this work was I love psychics and mediums and all the other folks you can find, but I was determined to find a work to help people find their sovereignty, their autonomy, where their soul was speaking through them rather than through someone else's filters. And so that was the big thing for me. And so I would say, know who you are. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are. Don't believe that you're just the form. Go into your heart and talk and talk and talk and develop that relationship with your soul. And then the more you do it, the more you're going to trust it. But it is tricky because, yeah, I know how to do my own soul's journeys, but when I'm particularly stuck, I have to reach out for help. I have to have a guide. So from my perspective, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful thing to put yourself in somebody's hands, and that who can hand you off to your own soul.
Right.
Well, you've done that for me beautifully, so thank you.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, thank you so
And
much.
it's such a beautiful collaboration, being in relationship with your soul, in relationship with yourself at the same time, with the help of others, a community. That's what it's all about. And Faith, you just exemplify that to the nines. And thank you so much for this beautiful discussion. Tim, wow. You picked a great speaker for us today.
Really, really easy. Yes.
And we're so grateful for you all listening in with us today and enjoying the beautiful wisdom of our lovely Faith.
Yes.
I hope you'll join us for our next session.
Yeah. Our next session will be, as long as it's okay with you, Susanna, I'm confirmed for March 8th at noon with Christy Gray.
Okay. Christy Gray, one of my favorite people. She's my spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
And she is a delight. I just know you're going to love her like I do.
We are cherry picking our wisdom elders to start this series off. So we're going to start off with as many big ones as we can do.
All right. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody.